This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
It's amazing zechus to be here at the Kever of the Sanegar Shel Klal Yisrael, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. You know, aside from the great zechus, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak is somebody who, you know, he speaks to everybody's heart. He touches everybody's neshama. So just a little bit about the galus of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. One of his talmidim was the Chayz of Lublin. So in the Tefer Shloimeh, in two places, in Parshas Kisavai and on Sukkos, Tefer Shloimeh writes that a person always has to have gratitude to the Rebbi Shalom for giving us Gedolei Yisrael and leaders. For example, the Chayz of Lublin, for the 16 years that Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was alive, when he was alive, spent an hour a day thanking the Rebbi Shalom for Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. Yeah, this the Chayz of Lublin spent an hour every single day. He was miyached to give haidah to Rebbi Shalom for Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. The Mekubalim write, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac of Karmana brings, and the Munkacher brings, that whose neshama did Rabbi Levi Yitzchak have? He had the neshama of Rabbi Kiva. That the same way Rabbi Kiva excelled in his dar in Torah, as the Gemara says, he could have been the Noisein HaTorah had Moshe Rabbeinu not done it. Likewise, another thing that Rabbi Kiva excelled in is tefillah. The Gemara says in Brachas he would start off davening in one corner, he would end up in the other corner, which we found by Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak's tefillah was with such hislavus. He would start on one side, he would end up elsewhere. And Gemilas Chasodim says the Munkacher, the same way Rabbi Kiva excelled in Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasodim in his dar. Likewise, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak equally excelled in these three inyanim. It's very interesting. In the Sefer Keser Torah was written by Rav Meir of Berditchev, the son of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. In the Hakdama of Keser Torah, he writes that his tata, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, this is important to know. We think Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was a Rebbe. Yeah, he was a Rebbe. But he was primarily a goyin in Torah. He taught thousands of Talmidim, Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, Poskim, and also a Derech and Avodah. But he taught thousands of Talmidim. I want to tell you a story now that the Kloisenberger Rebbe used to say over, that he heard from the Shus Yaakov from the city of Lemberg. An amazing story. One year, it's Leil Yom Kippur, and as they're about to start the Kol Nidre, in walks in a tall, regal man. He heads straight to the podium. He starts davening Kol Nidre. People, he's not the Chazan. Nobody told you to daven. But he's davening so beautifully that they let him go. They figure he has to get it out of his system, the Kol Nidre. But he continues with the Marav. He's davening Marav for the Amud. And after the Marav, he goes straight into the Shir HaYichud. So they figure, okay, that's a one-time thing. After the Shir HaYichud, he starts Parak Aleph, Asher Yish, Parak Beis of Tehillim, Parak Gimel, Parak Dalet, Parak Hey. It's already 11 o'clock at night, everybody's headed home. They come back in the morning, half hour before davening, Kuf Mem Tes, Kuf Nun, he went through the Tehillim the entire night. Brachas, Shachris, HaMelech, yeah, Shachris, Chazos Hashatz, he does Psicha, he takes out the Sefer Torah, Vayidaber Hashem El Moshe Acharei Moshe, he's laning, he does the Hagba, he does the Galila, he gives a little drasha before the Musaf, he's davening the Musaf, he's the Avodah. Okay, the people figure they'll put their head down for a few moments before the Mincha. He's up there for Mincha. Right before Neila, he's giving the drasha before Neila. He's davening Neila for the Amud. But who is this person? He can't be a human being. He's been standing there, kamat, for 24 hours straight. But Avodah. He blows the shofar at the end of Neila. Everybody knows who the Baal Marav is going to be. The Rav turns to him, you need a place for Havdalah. He doesn't say a word, he follows the Rav home. The Rav doesn't even bother making the Havdalah. He gives him to make the Havdalah. Everybody breaks the fast, and all of a sudden this individual tells the Rav, Levi, I'm so weak, something. The Rav gives him cake. He says, no, not that. A Gemara. Which Gemara? Sukkah. Starts opening Sukkah. Sukkah, Daf Beis, Gemara Rashi Tosfos, Daf Beis Amud Aleph, Daf Beis Amud Beis, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, Daf Gimel Amud Beis, Daf Daled, Daf Hey. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. He's up to Daf Chaf. He didn't break his tainus yet. He learned the entire Masechta, Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, and in the morning after Shacharis, he broke his fast. Rav Levi, Yitzchak of Berditchev. 48 hours straight. So the Kloisenberger Rebbe said, the godless of the story is not that he's able to do Torah v'Avodah 48 hours straight. The godless of the story is that the Heilige Rav Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, after 24 hours of Avodah b'Tfilah, he realized how weak his neshama was, that he didn't learn Gemara Rashi Tosfos, that he felt he has to learn Gemara Rashi Tosfos before he breaks his tainus. That's what the Kloisenberger Rebbe said. So he was a tremendous goyin in learning. The Munkacher brings in the Divrei Torah also something that really shook me up. One time a Gadol Yisrael came to Rabbi Levi Yitzchak and asked him a shayla on a Tosfos. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak says, let me see it in a Veinig. Oh, who's the Balei Tosfos? Oh, that one? Give me a Tehillim. And he said a certain parak of Tehillim. So this Gadol said, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? You have a shayla on a Tosfos. Why do you need to say a specific kapitel of Tehillim? So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak said that David HaMelech is a shorish of Torah Shabbat Peh. He's the midah of Malchus. And every one of the Balei Tosfos is connected to a specific mizmar in Tehillim. And if you know who the Balei Tosfos is, and you say that mizmar of Tehillim, it will be poiseach for you, the Sharei Havana of that particular Tosfos. It's interesting. The Shem Shmuel writes in Parsha Tetzaveh that why is it Bizman Hazeh that by the Chasidim, you think about the original Talmidei Baal Shem and the Magid, there was so much Ahava among them. There was so much friendship. Why is it today by Chasidim, I don't know, I'm not personally familiar, but they say sometimes Chasidim, they don't get along with each other. Why? What happened? In the beginning, they had so much Ahava. Why today? So the Kotzker said like this. In Shamayim, there's a Heichal called Heichal Ahava. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev opened up the Heichal and he brought Ahava to the world. And that's why by the Hasidim, they used to have a lot of friendship and love. But then the Goyim, they took this Heichal Ahava and they abused it and they took it too far and they brought Hashchasa to the world. So the Manhigei Hadar, they had to close up the Sharei Ahava. So that's why by the Hasidim, the Ahava doesn't exist the way it used to. It's like the Renoinus Kamat, because in order to protect the generation, if the Sharei Ahava would be open, it would lead to more Hashchasa. So one of the important limudim of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev is as follows. He would say, Kadesh li kol b'char. The first step in Avodas Hashem, the first step in Kedusha is kol b'char. It's to be makir that Klal Yisrael is the pupil, the apple of the eye of Ribbon Shalom. The avodah of being ma'ora rachamim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu about Klal Yisrael. Always to speak highly of them. Always to find a justification for any lacking in their Avodas Hashem. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak writes in this past week's Parsha, Parshas Pinchas, that tzaddikim should always try to say before the Ribbon Shalom that if Klal Yisrael are lax in their Avodas Hashem, you should try to say it's because Klal Yisrael has the all parnasa on their shoulders. He says Avram Avinu was the master of trying to be melitz to the Ribbon Shalom on behalf of Klal Yisrael. And Avram Avinu said like this. Avram Avinu recognized that the Malachim have ketrugim, they want to be mekacheg on a yid. But the biggest sanegar, the biggest defense for a yid is the fact that we have the all of parnasa on our shoulders. So Avram Avinu, when the Malachim came to him, what did Avram Avinu give them? Food. Why is he stupping them with food? He's saying, keep your mouth closed. You have any tinus on a yid? Look what we have to do. Look what we need. We need food. We need kemach. We need to make a parnasa. And that's the greatest defense for a yid. We have the all of parnasa on our shoulders. One year, the Munkacher in his drasha for Rosh Hashanah said over one of the hamlatzos of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev. The Munkacher said like this is what Rabbi Levi Yitzchak would say. Rebbeinu Shalom, what do you say in the Torah? Yom Trua Yelachem. That Rosh Hashanah should be a day of blowing. What does the Targum say? Yom Yabava. So all the Rebbeinu Shalom says, we ask of us is that we blow. Just blow. How many? One time. But we don't know, is it Yelulei Yalal? Is it Genuchei Ganach? Is it a Trua? Is it a Shvarim? Is it a Shvarim Trua? Tkiya before, so we blow Tkiya before, we blow Tkiya after, we blow with a Shvarim, we blow with a Trua, we blow with Shua Trarim, not only 9 blasts, 30 blasts, 100 blasts, not only 1 day, 2 days, and every Kehila and Klal Yisrael, they blow 200 blasts. And why? All the Rebbeinu Shem asks of us is, blow 1 time! And we blow it this year, and the next year, and we've been blowing for hundreds of years. You asked us to blow 1 time, and we blew thousands of times. But Rebbeinu Shalom, Tata Zisa, we ask you one question. Just blow the shofar 1 time, please. Tika b'shofar God. Just blow 1 time, that's it. We don't need a shvarim, we don't need a trua, we don't need a tashat, tarat, tashrat. Just blow the shofar 1 time. Look what you asked of us. I thought ein pischeihem mechuvanim. I thought you go beyond what you ask us. You do more for us than what. But look how much we've done for you. Please, Rebbeinu Shalom, Tika the shofar gadol l'cheruseinu. That was one of the hamlatzos of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. It's interesting. So the story goes that somebody's tefillin once fell down on the floor. So they rushed to pick up the tefillin. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev said, Rebbeinu Shalom, we are your tefillin. Klal Yisrael, the tefillin of the Rebbeinu Shalom. What does it say in the tefillin of the Rebbeinu Shalom? Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goyach ba'aretz. We're munach ba'afar, we've fallen on the floor. Rebbeinu Shalom, pick up your tefillin, pick up Klal Yisrael, elevate Klal Yisrael, be meroimim Klal Yisrael. So I see on the wall they have over here one of the famous nigunim, piyutim of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak is Rebbeinu Shalom Lomer Machan Abayit. We all know that the way in Berditchev, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak would say the Kaddish before the Musaf on the Yom Noram, is Rabbi Levi Yitzchak would say, the Russians think they own the world. The French think they own the world. All the Ummah Ha'olam think the world is theirs. But Rabbi Levi Yitzchak ben Sarah Sasha says what? Skadel v'yiskadesh Shemei Rabbah. That's how he would start the Musaf on the Yom Noram. So his great midah was he was be melamed zchus on Klal Yisrael. Chafetz Chaim writes, one of the greatest chusim a yid could have is Rebbi Shem was looking in Shamayim. Who's going to say at this a good word about my children? We always talk about Lashon Hara, but there's something much worse than Lashon Hara. Worse than Lashon Hara is to say something bad, not about an individual yid, but about Klal Yisrael as a whole. We all know Moshe Rabbeinu, when he said Shimuna HaMoirim, he was punished very strictly. The Ran writes, what's wrong with what Moshe Rabbeinu said? Shimuna HaMoirim? We were Moirim. Yankel was a Moira, Feivel was a Moira, every yid was a rebel. So the Ran says, every yid was a rebel. But you can't talk about Yisrael as rebels. Yisrael Kedushim Heim, as we said earlier by Reb Zusha. Klal Yisrael as an entity is untouchable. And if somebody, when they're walking down the street, is able to raise their hands to Rebbeinu Shalom and say, Rebbeinu Shalom, look at what a wonderful people you have, to point out the milas of Yidden, to point out the milas of Klal Yisrael, that's a zechus gedola ad l'shamayim. So we should be zoicha that at this Makom Kadosh to try to integrate a little bit some of the values, some of the hanhagos, some of the midos of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, and it should be sanegaria for us, for our mishpachos, and for all of Klal Yisrael.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.